All right, the Pride Parade annually, have this parade annually, and what it represents is the diversity of the city of Chicago, and that's what makes the city of Chicago great. So being here and representing CPD, it's important that this tradition and this parade goes off safely, goes off without any problems and any issues. We want to make sure that everyone who shows up is safe. We want to make sure that every participant is safe. We've seen this parade in the past, and people just go there to have a good time, and the parade goes off well. However, what we're concerned about more than anything else is what occurs late into the night after the parade, right? There's a neighborhood that's residential. We also have our business corridors over there, and it's important that when we see these crowds that they're celebrating peacefully, that they're not disrupting the way of life for the residents over in the location where the parade will be taking place. It's important to understand that when we have large groups, large gatherings, and it turns violent, it becomes problematic for everyone who's involved. So what I will tell you is that the Chicago Police Department, we've been planning for this for a while. Been in constant contact with the 44th Ward Alderman about planning around safety in this parade. We know that this parade gets threats constantly. We're working with not only local partners but our federal partners and making sure that we're looking at every threat. We take them all seriously. We do our research and we put plans in place to make sure that none of those threats can be carried out. Our police officers will be along the entire route. You will see an abundance of police officers out there. Not because they're trying to stop anyone from having fun, they just want to make sure that everyone who is having fun gets the opportunity to do it safely. There'll be high visibility from our officers. So you will see our officers from the beginning of the route all the way until the end. We cancel days off to make sure that we have enough manpower out there, but we also want to make sure that we have enough manpower in the communities and the neighborhoods where we know violent crimes can occur. Again, we would like for you, if you see something, say something along the route. So if you see something going on within the parade and within the parade route, we would appreciate it if you stopped an officer, passed on that information to an officer that's on the route, or call 911. It would be helpful to us. Along that parade route, you will see pole markers. Those pole markers will be a combination of letters and numbers. What that is going to identify the location where you are. So if you make a phone call to the police and you look up and you see that marker, we'll know exactly where you are and we'll be able to talk to the police about that location, okay? So we talked about those large gatherings. Again, what we've seen in the past with those large gatherings late at night is that there are acts of violence. And when those acts of violence occur, what we've also seen is people who just decide to converge upon that area and carry out more acts of violence, vandalism, things of that nature. So I'm just here to tell you right now that's not going to be tolerated. We will put an end to that, and if arrests need to be made, we will do that. We hope we do not have to do that. That is the plan. The plan is for this parade to go off as well as it should, as well as it can. Our parade goers can go in, enjoy the parade. Our participants can enjoy it. But we will not tolerate acts of violence later on after the parade. Every year that parade it goes off well. It's just what occurs afterwards. So we will be paying attention to that. We have to make sure that our first responders can get to and from locations as people call first responders, especially EMTs, our paramedics, getting in and out. If they have to get someone to a hospital or if there's a medical emergency call, we want to make sure that we can get our first responders in there. The other thing that we want is that we don't want our residents trapped in their homes where they can't get out and move around freely themselves. So we want to make sure that we keep that covered. So I'd like to thank all of the elected officials who have worked with the Chicago Police Department on that, all of our city agencies who have worked in partnership with us to make sure that this parade goes off well. and working in preparation for it. And I'd also like to thank all of the community members and their input to help CPD have a better understanding of what's needed in those communities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alderman Lawson.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. As Alderman of the 44th Ward, this is always an incredibly special time of year for us as we welcome people from across our city and our state for the annual Pride Parade. This year is 53 years of our parade, and as an openly gay alderman, I take particular joy in seeing thousands of people come together in our neighborhood to celebrate the LGBT community and the progress we've made in the ongoing fight for equality. I especially want to thank Jolie Robinson, our new-ish CEO here at the center. This is one of the most amazing buildings in my ward, and I have Wrigley Field. But the work that's done here is so important, not just for the immediate community, but really citywide. And so I always want to lift up the center every chance I get. So thank you for that. You know, our city is a haven, not just this space and this street, but our entire city is a haven for those who are experiencing LGBT discrimination from around the world. And as we welcome folks here this weekend, I think we want to remember that. We want to keep it safe. Safety is always our #1 priority. As the superintendent said, we've known the parade has certain issues or logistical issues that we have to be addressed. We know the activity afterward, which has become increasingly more concerning. And I appreciate the superintendent's commitment to keeping our entire day safe. And that's really what this is about. It's a very long day in Lakeview, for those of us that do the whole day especially, and it has to be safe from the first arrivals to the very late night. And so I'm so grateful to the superintendent and the officers who are going to be out here this weekend for the collaboration that has happened with myself and my colleagues who have the route, with the broader LGBT community and the conversations that have happened there. And I really believe we're ready for an incredible weekend once again in Lakeview. So thank you very much.
If anyone has any questions.
Yes. Can you talk about whether you've seen any credible threats? You said that the parade always gets threats, but are there any threats that you deem credible?
Well, here, when it comes to something like this, especially when there's a possibility of a hate crime, we take them all as credible. We take them seriously. Some threats are a little more serious than others. Some are a lot more credible than others. But when we have a threat, we investigate it, we make sure we gather as much information as we can, and we plan around that, and we plan for prevention. So regardless to whether we think it's 100% credible or not, we're still prepared for it. So we want to make sure that nothing that's a threat, because again, if it's predictable, it's preventable. So we want to make sure that we prevent any of that.
How many officers will you have on the ground during the parade?
Well, we're going to have a large number of officers, so I wouldn't necessarily put a number on it because we shift and we make changes based on things that happen. But we're going to have officers from the beginning until the end of that parade. There'll be shift changes in between, so we'll be bringing in fresh bodies of officers because we don't want them out there for long, extended periods of time. We want to make sure that we give our officers a break so they're fresh of mind, fresh of body when they're out there to respond.
Yes, I have a question that's not related to this conference, but I would like to ask you about Venezuelan gang that we covered that is operating here in the city of Chicago. Tonight has been arrested. The name of the gang is Vende Agua, and I would like to know what you have to say about that, how it's spread in the operation here in the city of Chicago.
I'm sorry, I need to, we have to clarify that. We can talk about that afterwards.
On topic questions now, if you don't mind, folks.
Is there any sense of when the fights happen, like the violence at night, if those are folks who have been at the parade, or if those are people who are coming in later on? Any idea of that?
You know, for the most part, what we've seen from the parade goers, it's usually more family oriented, you know, people who just are there to watch the parade. But the celebration afterwards, I'm sure there are possibly some people there who were at the parade, but there are a lot of people who converge upon that area later on during the night who were not parade goers. And this is why we need to be very careful about how we respond as the police. We want to make sure that anyone who is going down there to wreak havoc on the location, to commit acts of violence, vandalism, that we put an end to that before it starts. So it's not, I would not tie that to the parade. It's just people who are deciding to have a little extracurricular activity after the parade is done.
What role do the parade's changes play in your preparations this year, especially for the late night hour? Yeah, the late night hours. I'm talking about like the earlier start time, the entry cap, and the shorter route.
So here's what I will tell you. For us, as the Chicago Police Department, the concern is not as much about who's in the parade, necessarily how long the parade is, but the breaks in the parade. The earlier start time, it will be helpful to us to get, like I said, fresh officers into those locations, to switch out officers who have been there for a long period of time already, working the parade itself, and then we'll have officers who are fresh to respond later on throughout the night.
Does the shorter route help you staff more officers later in the evening?
That's always a possibility. When things are shorter, we can actually, it's more concentrated, which now our officers are not spread out as far.
Did you have a question, Tom?
Sorry, but shorter parade, I mean, do you have any concern that that sort of takes away from the spirit of what the day means and what you see people sort of trying to take advantage of, instead of the active violence after, because then you have like, you see people sort of trying to take advantage of that moment, the negative.
So here's what I'll tell you. When it comes to the Chicago Police Department, we don't want to do anything to change the spirit of the parade. We know how important that parade is, not only to the participants, but people who go there to see the parade. There are people who wait all year to attend this parade and see it. So as the Chicago Police Department, we never want to interfere with that. Our major concern is the safety of all parade goers. It's concerned after the parade has ended. And it's important to understand this. When there are threats, when there are possibilities of disruptions, in order for us as a department to effectively intervene in those things to make sure that everyone is safe, sometimes small changes are necessary, and it's helpful to keep everyone safe.
Here, one more parade question.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that some of the officers had received training here at the Center on Halsted. Was that in advance of this specific pride parade, or is that something that you've been doing?
No, that's an ongoing thing. This is to keep our officers educated and aware of everything that's going on in every community.
Okay, because you have said about threat and risk, but what about that specific threat on terrorist violence? Because it's been issued by FBI and Homeland Security.
Yes, so here, we work closely with our federal partners, our Joint Terrorism Task Force, and this is how we work together on those types of threats. So when we look at the possibility of some type of terrorism, we are working with our federal partners, and we are making plans around those threats. So we look at those threats, and we mentioned earlier, some of them are more serious than others, some of them are more credible than others, but we take them all seriously, and we have plans around them. I think
Last
Sheila.
question. That was the question. All right.
Can you Alderman?
Sure.
I just had a question about bar times, closing times. Is that something that has been addressed or is thought about being addressed regarding violence late at night or problems late at night, bar closing times?
So the bars are allowed to operate during their regular hours for Sunday, which I believe is 11 a.m. For taverns until 2 a.m. The bars on Halsted that I can speak to are a partner in the safety of our community on that day. They not only have additional security, but they're bringing people in off of the street and making sure that they're not overserved, that they are hydrated, and most years cool. This year may be a little bit different on weather. So any decision as far as closing bars early is something that's sort of made on an emergency basis by the police. What I've said is, we've had bars that they're full, they cut their line so that there's no longer people waiting, and then people will go out the alley if needed, if there's problems in front, or at a time when it is less crowded to go out in front. So the bars are our partner in this, but there's no closing early or anything like that yet.
All right, thank you very much.
Great.